Hello, everyone. My name is Amaya Mannering, and I'm the chairperson and one of the moderators for tonight's panel on women's rights. Our panel comes in light of many significant events impacting women's rights over the past year. In 2020, we saw the passing of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, a giant in her mere existence, but in many others as well, through her decisions as a Supreme Court justice. Even with that loss, amongst others, we've seen many gains. We saw the first female vice president, Kamala Harris, elected to office. We saw one of the largest women's rights protests in decades, as well as women paving the way for other movements, even in our county. And just yesterday, we had our first female referee at the Super Bowl. With this momentum, we hope this panel will continue to make strides for women in our county and beyond. However, this panel is not only for women. We hope our male viewers are drawn in by the necessity of this conversation and do not feel isolated or even called out if they cannot relate. Now, each panelist will introduce themselves. Please state your name, age, grade, pronouns, and why you thought it was important to be on this panel. We'll be going in alphabetical order by first name. So I'll start. As I said, I'm Amaya Mannering. I'm a senior at Northeast High School, and I'm 17 years old, and I go by she, her pronouns. I felt it was important to be here tonight because in my clubs at school and throughout my community, I've seen many female leaders taking charge and making major changes, like starting the equity committee at my school. So I feel it's important to keep giving women these platforms so they can make change in our county and around the world. Next, we have Boomy.
Okay, well, hi, my name is Boomy. I'm 17 years old. I'm a junior at Arundel High, and my pronouns are she/her. I'm also the secretary for Let's Talk Justice and the co-moderator for this forum alongside Amaya. Now, the reason why I joined this forum and wanted to help moderate it was because I wanted to be part of the felicitation of making this conversation, allowing people across Anne Arundel County who are female to share their experiences about what it's like to grow up as a girl in this school system and really just in this modern day and age. And I'm hoping that we can touch upon a lot of different conversations that both or all genders can enjoy listening to.
Great. Next, we have Caroline.
Hi, I'm Caroline Finn. I am 15 years old. I'm a sophomore in the STEM program at South River High School. My pronouns are she, her, and I was really excited to be a part of this panel because as an aspiring woman in engineering, I've seen the effects of the patriarchy on women in the workforce. And really, I've seen the pervasiveness of the patriarchy in all aspects of a woman's life. So I'm really excited to advocate for that today and to be a part of this candid discussion with my peers.
Awesome. Next, we have Gabriella.
Hello, my name is Gabriela Benitez. I am a 15-year-old. My pronouns are she, her. I am a ninth grader, BEMA student at Glen Burnie High School. I wanted to be in this forum because I want women to have a voice and also to be heard.
Awesome. Next, we have Hala.
Hi, my name is Hala Malik. I'm a sophomore at Crofton High School. I'm 15 years old, and my pronouns are she, her. I was really excited to be part of this panel because I believe that there's so much more that society can do in order for women to achieve total equality.
Great. Now we have Jaina.
Hi, I'm Jaina. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a 15-year-old sophomore at Severna Park High School in the business program, and I'm also a part of the Let's Talk Justice Planning Committee where I'm the communication specialist. I wanted to be a part of this forum because I wanted to talk about the issues of women's rights that are often not talked about enough or totally forgotten, and I wanted to bring them to light. Thank you.
Great. Next, we have Mega.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mega Thomas, and I'm an 11th grade STEM student at South River High School. My pronouns are she, her, and I was so excited to be a part of today's panel because women's rights is such an important topic for discussion, and it deserves a county-level platform for discussion. I hope today's forum is engaging and that we all learn something new from everyone's experiences, stories, and
Great. Next, we have Megan.
Hello, my name is Megan, and I am 12 years old. My pronouns are she, her. I am a 7th grader at Brooklyn Park Middle School. I wanted to be a part of this panel because I feel very strongly about women's rights and I want to voice my opinion on this very important topic.
Awesome. Next we have Naya.
Hi, my name is Naya. I'm 13 years old. I'm an 8th grader at Old Mill Middle School South, and my pronouns are she, her, and I wanted to be a part of this forum because women have voices and we can speak up and we can get things done, but only if we stick together.
Great. Next we have Princess.
Hi, my name is Princess Tatsi. I'm a junior at Old Mill High School. I'm in the IB program and my pronouns are she/her. I wanted to be part of this forum because I think that lots of people think because there's a little bit of equality for women, that means that everything is okay. But I just want to highlight the microaggressions with my peers. And I just think it's a very important conversation to have. So thank you.
Awesome. Next we have Becca.
Hi, I'm Becca. I'm 18. I'm a senior at Northeast High School. My pronouns are she, her, and I really wanted to be a part of this discussion to not only share my viewpoints, but hear from my peers. I'm also a part of the Equity Committee alongside the beautiful Amaya, so I'm just definitely ready to get into this discussion.
Great. And last but not least, we have Taylor.
Hey y'all, my name is Taylor. I'm 17 years old. I'm from Annapolis High School and I am a senior. I am co-president of my Black History Club and I wanted to be, my pronouns are she, her too. I wanted to be a part of this forum because I wanted to bring to light some of the issues that I have seen or I've experienced myself, that women are underestimated in male-dominated industries, and also bring to light how women can do anything and we are capable of doing anything. We just also, like Naya said, stick together, and I'm excited to be here and discuss this topic with you guys.
Awesome. Just so you know, you guys can send in your questions live and we will answer them here on this panel if you send your questions to letstalkjustice@aacps.org. I'll say that again throughout the panel. And now let's get on with the discussion. I'll pass it over to my co-moderator, Bhumi.
So as we've all heard through basically everyone's point and motive in joining this forum is that we know that there's been a little bit of equality for women as time has gone on, but we still have work to be done. And I think the first question we need to ask before we dive into any conversation about the female experience is, what is feminism? Something that I believe is important to all of us here, and I hope is important to everyone watching. So we're going to go around and talk about what is feminism to us, what we think it means, and how we want it to kind of go all across Anne Arundel County and really all over the world. So I'll start. To me, feminism is not simply a movement to provide female supremacy. I've always thought that was a misconception, but I really think that feminism, despite the name, is about equality between the sexes. So not only does it work for equality for women, but also for men in the spaces in which sexism works against them. It's all about getting everyone on the same playing field, which is why I believe everyone should be a feminist. I think Caroline is next.
Yeah, so for me, feminism is all about support. It's the comfort in knowing that we support each other in our endeavors and that we all have equal opportunity to reaching our goals. And it's not just support of females, it's support in how the patriarchy affects men as well. So it's really just knowing that we're all here for each other and that we're all working towards a common goal.
Beyond that, I'm going to jump in real quick. I don't feel like it's just the equality, because a lot of people have that misconception that because women have the same jobs as men, that they're equal because it's an equal opportunity, or because women can play the same sports as men. The equal opportunity means that there's no need for feminism and that women are equal now. But feminism goes beyond the equality to equity, which is the fact that women in those fields don't get enough pay as their male counterparts. And so that's why we really still need feminism today.
I agree with Amaya. I feel like integration is not equality. Like, you could throw a whole bunch of people in the same room together, and it doesn't mean every single person is going to be treated exactly the same. So just because there are women in sports that males mostly play or in STEM or in certain jobs does not mean that they're going to be treated equally or fairly or even get the same opportunities within those environments as males will get.
I think Naya brings up a good point that kind of segues us to our first topic of the night. We're going to go over 3 different things over the course of this forum. First being women in STEM, second being gender roles, and third being beauty standards. But this idea that although women might have the same opportunities, they don't have the same paths nor the same results once they use those opportunities. So we're going to start off by talking about women in STEM, a rather hot topic when it comes to female participation. And I'm going to pass this along to one of my co-panelists, Gabby and Caroline, since they're really, really into STEM.
Yeah, so I'm Caroline, like I said, and I just want to kind of talk about how STEM fields offer some of the highest return on investment in the career paths that they offer, and yet we're seeing this immense lack of women representation. The phrase leaky pipeline is often used to describe the progressive lack of women involvement in the STEM fields. If we look specifically at the engineering field, back in the 1960s, only 1% of engineers were women. Fast forward to today, and women make up roughly 11% of engineers. And if you isolate those numbers, it may seem like a great stride in involvement, but really it's a baby step. And further, 11% of women in engineering is not where we want to be, but also we only have 2% of engineers are Latina and Black women. So we have a lot of improvement to do, but we're not the only ones. Countries like Canada have similar numbers as us, but they have the ambitious goal of their 30 by 30 plan. So by 2030, they want to see 30% of engineers be women. If we want to meet similar goals, we have to have these candid discussions, we have to discuss these topics, and we have to be willing to put in the work. So today I want to ask my fellow panelists, what experiences have you had in STEM and what have you noticed? And first, I'm going to hand it off to Gabriella for some insight.
Thank you, Caroline. So I actually have a story myself in which I am a very big car fan, and my dad is actually a mechanic himself, and he fixes cars daily. And I just think that that is something that I very value. And seeing him and all these other male dominant jobs, barely having any women in their jobs. So I feel like as a STEM lover, I really feel like there should be more women interested in math and science, or even in the medical field. So I do believe that my story should be heard, as because my dad and me, I help him sometimes as well when it comes to cars. So I do believe that if any of you have any other story you guys would like to share, that would be amazing, because it really needs to be out there.
So I'm sure many of you guys can relate, especially if you guys are in STEM or BEMA, something like that, being like the only girl in the room, or maybe just you and a few other peers. And it sucks because you're just underestimated. No one takes you seriously. You have to like learn to come up with all these phrases so that you can actually assert yourself. Like, if you guys remember Kamala Harris in the vice presidential debates, when she was saying, like, excuse me, I'm talking, you have to say things like that all the time because no one takes you seriously. And we just have to learn how to deal with that, because, I mean, anything we say, we just get shut down immediately.
I'm in my school's business program, and even though this is not like STEM, it's still a male-dominated field. And most of the time in my business classes, I end up doing majority of the work. I end up doing most of the statistics and bringing the most to the project. But then when we're up there presenting, all the guys in my group want to start talking over me, and they want to start taking over the project, even though I've done majority of the work. See, I have one foot into the door when they have their whole body, maybe even 2 of their own bodies inside the door themselves. I have to basically prove to them that I am worthy of my position here. I have to prove that I know what I'm talking about. And I do little things like I fidget with myself, I fidget with some of my stuff, and they view that as weak, or me stuttering as weak. But then when men do it, it's just kind of like, oh, well, like, they meant to be here, they're meant to be, in this place, they're meant to be in this room, while I'm like 50 feet behind them before I can even get a chance to even say one word.
And I feel like a lot of times adults will like put you in charge of a whole group of boys, and then like you're supposed to be able to control them. Like, no, you can't. Like in 6th grade, we had to do this science presentation on viruses. I was put in charge of like a group of 8 boys. Like a lot of help that title as project manager did me. They did no work. And I complained to my science teacher, she didn't do anything. And I ended up doing most of the presentation, went back and complained, and they still got the exact same grade that I worked for.
Yeah, at my school, I'm in the PLTW program, and in my intro to engineering class, I think there's about 22 people in the class, and I am one of 2 girls. And whenever we do Kahoots, I have this need to get on the podium because I feel like I have something to prove. Like I need to be in that top 3 to show that I'm supposed to be here, that I know what I'm doing just as much as everyone else. And I don't get the sense that my male counterparts feel the same way. And it could be because they have an overwhelming majority in the class, whereas me and my female friend are the only of our gender in the class. So there's definitely, because of that lack of representation, it's like it's isolating, and it feels like you always have something to prove and something to show.
And
yeah, and sometimes it can get it's not always overt, and I think those are the most dangerous instances. Because I'm thinking, I took AP Computer Science Principles last year in sophomore year, and I remember I was surprised because there were actually a lot of girls in the class, but it was still majority male. And what I noticed about my interactions with my classmates is that it was very, very difficult to ask for help, because if you asked the people in the class who were doing coding outside of school, like they were very interested in computer science, they would kind of talk to you like, of course, you have to put a bracket after this. And I'm just like, I just took this course today. I don't do this on the weekend. I just took this course today. And I feel like that's something that pushes girls specifically who are trying to get into STEM out, when they feel like there's not this sort of camaraderie, that they are already 5 miles behind when they just got on the racetrack. And some people might argue this isn't based on gender, but what I notice is that I only had these experiences with my male classmates that I was being talked down to, and I couldn't even defend myself because I didn't know what was going on. And so it just made it seem like, you know what, maybe this isn't worth an endeavor of going through this being talked down to and not getting the help I need, when I have no one out there who's really looking for me to learn or wanting me to learn and be at the same level as them. And I think that's just a way that gets women out of the door before they're even up to the door frame.
I think Caroline mentioned about representation, because that is important. Like the way my classes are scheduled now virtually, it looks like it's half and half, but the STEM program at my school is majority male, but the girls in my class are majority female. So it's kind of weird. And then breaking down even further, that I'm one of the 3 Black girls in all my main classes. So there's like not much representation there at all for me.
And like I said, it all goes back to judgment and how males judge us, because like Boomy said, they think we're far behind. And yes, sometimes we don't have the research, sometimes we don't know what's going on, but that still shouldn't be an excuse for them to bring us down and to bring our self-esteem down. Because honestly, as a STEM is a lot of mathematics and a lot of science related things. So for a male to bring us down in things that maybe we're still learning about is something that I feel like is just misjudged.
And an important thing to note with that is, although you're 120% right, is sometimes like women have a sort of internalized misogyny wherein they believe that they don't have the power to be involved in like the STEM fields. I mean, there's this stereotype that, women are good at writing and English and men are good at math and science. And some women believe that themselves, and that's what kind of hinders them too, because there's this intergenerational mindset that's been carried out since way before our time, that we weren't born with the capabilities to be good at STEM fields, which is completely wrong. It's like the notion that we're born left brain or right brain. No, the brain's a muscle. You can be good at whatever you want. You just have to work at it. So there's this stereotype and stigma around women being in STEM that exists all across the board. And I mean, it makes it harder for us to combat it.
Yeah, so I am not part of a STEM program as of right now. I used to be going on a STEM career path, but what I did notice a lot is that if you're thinking about going into STEM in college or applying for a STEM program, a lot of people saying that, you're only going to get into that because you're a woman and you're underrepresented in that field. So that's going to be the reason that you get into that program. And I feel like that undervalues the work that a woman put into it. That's also kind of like the case with people saying affirmative action. That's the only reason this is happening. It's like kind of like that. It's like undermining everything you put into it, saying just because you're a woman is the reason that you were able to do this.
Okay, so I'm hearing a lot of similar things. I've never personally been in a STEM program, so I don't know. But a lot of people are saying that they felt that their male counterparts didn't support them or felt discouraged because they were already so far ahead. So I'd like to ask the question to the people in the STEM program who have had similar experiences. What advice would you give to your male counterparts if you could? Because I know there are probably plenty tuning in right now on how to make those spaces more inclusive, how to make those spaces more open for women to bridge this gap.
Probably rule number one has to be, don't interrupt me when I'm trying to talk or when I'm trying to tell you something. If I give you an idea, don't dismiss it. Half the time I'm not even listened to, like 50% for it's like, no, never mind. Like, no, it's not never mind. Please let me finish what I'm saying.
My advice would be for women especially, that don't think that because you're getting misjudged, don't think that that should bring you down. That should give you even more power to be there, to be somebody in the world, especially even if it comes in the STEM field or medical field. Be somebody out there and show that you're somebody in this world that shouldn't have to have the need to prove themselves for something that males don't need to be proven for.
Gabriella, that was such like a powerful statement. I love that. I'm like, I want to save that recording. I would say, and it's really simple, that all we're kind of asking is that they identify that the problem exists, that they identify that, that we're underrepresented, that sometimes our voices aren't as heard. And in that identification, I think naturally comes a solution. And it might take a long time, but you have to identify the solution first, or the problem first, or there'll never be a solution that follows.
And I think this is a rule of thumb for not just like women, even though women are usually talked down to, especially with these types of things like STEM, but really with anyone that is showing a curiosity for a new skill. It's really, I don't want to use the word unkind because that kind of sounds, like grade school, but it's just unkind to when you see someone that's genuinely trying to learn something and you use like subtle ways to show that you're irritated at that curiosity. Like, everyone had to learn how to do addition, multiplication, all the way up to doing anti-differentiation or antiderivatives and things like that. Obviously, not everyone's going to go from basic arithmetic to calculus 2, but everyone needs to start somewhere. And just a rule of thumb, no matter what the gender of the person is, if you see someone who's having trouble with their code, don't be annoyed if they ask you for help. If you see someone who doesn't understand like Newton's law of cooling and is having trouble with the equation, hey, point out what they need to do. Don't act annoyed, because I'm going to tell you, you probably wouldn't have gotten to where you were if there weren't a line of people who are willing to help you get where you are. So, rule of thumb, be kind, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
And I feel like there's also a point where like asking, like, pretty please, can you respect me? isn't enough. Like there's a point where it's like it's no longer I'm begging you, I'm not asking you, I'm telling you what you're gonna do. You're gonna respect me, and that's that.
One of the things that I do that may not doesn't go over well with some people is when people try to talk over me, more specifically when men try to talk over me, you challenge their voice, you raise up to their level. You go to their voice, because if you just stop talking, of course, they have the power. Now they have one over you, and you want to have equal amount of power. You want to have equity, you want to have equality. And so you keep on talking. You keep on talking and making your point until they stop. You keep on going because you need to challenge them to get the point across that you deserve, you are demanding to be respected because you are a person, you are a human, and that's all that it takes.
And you notice that when you raise your voice up and you start talking like they're talking to you, all of a sudden it's be quiet. You're getting too angry. You have to calm down. Like they didn't have to calm down.
Exactly. And if you'll notice, like a lot of times when like girls talk, they'll follow things with like, but I don't know, or I could be wrong, like sorry to intrude. Like, and guys don't say that. They don't follow up their statements with that. So just be sure in yourself. Like, you know what you're talking about. Don't be sorry. Don't think you're wrong. You're right. Just go with it.
Yeah, like I remember we were talking earlier, and I had said, like, when it comes to women in business, sometimes if we're like, I need this done, this done, this done, this done, they're like, oh, she a diva. She's being kind of a, like, but it's just like if a man steps into like the workplace, he's like, I need this done, this done, this done. He's about business, but women are about business as well. It's just don't take us as a joke because we're serious.
Taylor, I love that you brought that up because I see a lot of double standards with women, not just in STEM, but really all throughout any institution that's affected by the patriarchy, which is any institution. And I think that that helps to segue us to our next topic, which has to deal with gender roles, where we see women in society, what their archetype is, and what types of attributes, actions, and etc. that they should be playing into in the role in society. And as a matter of fact, Taylor, I'm going to hand it back off to you because I know you have a lot to say on this topic, starting with the music industry, another industry besides STEM that is predominantly male.
Yeah, so gender roles is basically what society sees as women as men, what we're supposed to act like. I think it really shows in the music industry and also the film industry as well. With music, you have different lyrics, you have different artists that are speaking, rapping, or just singing different lyrics, and you can see the difference between some slack that women get and some slack that males get. Like, okay, for example, I can say, so Megan Thee Stallion. I know some of y'all know Megan Thee Stallion, right? So Megan Thee Stallion, she is over. Some people say she over sexualizes herself, or she just says lyrics that are just too much or just too perverted for some people. But it's like you have people like Lil Baby or Lil Durk, or you have DaBaby, just rappers like that who are rapping or singing the same thing as Megan Thee Stallion, but it's like, yeah, that's bro. Like he's doing his thing. Like, he's on the come up. He's getting into his bag. But it's just like it's the double standard between that. Also, when it comes to women in film as well, you can see how the difference between how women get hired between how men get hired. So women work into top 100 grossing films. So you have 21% in 2019 were hired, then 23% in 2020. But in 2020, the majority of films were 67% employed to 0 to 4 women in the roles considered. So 24% of films employed 5 to 9 women, and 9% employed 10 or more women. So you see like ratio between men and women in film. And honestly, I know a lot of amazing women who know how to edit, who know how to direct, act, sing, dance their butt off, but will be underestimated because it's a male dominated field. And I feel like that's something that we need to bring to the table. We have a lot of issues within the film industry and music industry where we feel like women have to be pressured into doing something in order to make it to the top, right? So you have, for instance, the Me Too movement came about because not only because of sexual assault allegations, but talking about Harvey Weinstein and that whole situation where women felt like they had to do this or certain things with him in order to get to where they are now, which is uncomfortable. And now bringing into the light of 2020 and 2021 and so on, I think it's so important for us to talk about that. And I think Princess as well has some topics to also talk about the entertainment industry and music and film. So you can come on up, Princess.
Okay. So I've noticed a lot of like what Taylor said about women having to do a lot of sexual stuff to get to the top. They feel pressured because they have to basically sell their bodies. An example of this in an interview that Little Mix British girl band did was they were advised to go flirt with executives to get to the top and to break America. And they were really strong about their opinion. And they refused to do that. And they refused to have to sell their bodies because why should they have to do it? And it also ties into, like, for example, the Super Bowl performance that we had last night. Like, a woman, like, let me use Beyonce as an example. She comes in, she has to give her all. Because if she doesn't give her all, it's that she's lazy, she's slacking, she has no talent. It will basically, she will never hear the end of it. But if a man just has to come stand there and just sing, and he's the greatest. Like, I see so many people try to put down great women who work their butts off to be where they are today, to have the stability they have, the money they have, and everyone just jumps to quickly, just very quickly discredit them over men who don't do as much as they do. And that's so discrediting as what Taylor said. We see more men credited and we see more men in like movies. And we see when award shows come on, we see more men being awarded and more men being nominated. And sometimes they just put one woman in there just as the diversity person. And that's not how it should be. They should be recognized for their talent. They should be held to such, because they're so good. They do so much work and they work 10 times harder to get where they are, especially women of color. And I don't see lots of women of color. Yes, exactly, Taylor.
You got 10 times harder, unfortunately, which is unfortunate. And like,
it is unfortunate.
Times harder than the average woman not of color has to within the film industry. Like, you see these Ava DuVernay, for example, she's brilliant, and she comes out with these films talking about Black excellence, talking about the 13th that's on Netflix, or you even see films like When They See Us, or you just see this women directors, period, just imagining having to prove yourself being a woman, but then on top of that, being a Black woman in film, being a Black woman in the industry, and also in the music industry. You can see how a lot of these men are producers, but unfortunately, some of them, they pick women who it's pleasing to them, to the eye, to see. So it's like, I read an article saying how more plus size women or curvier girls won't be seen as much as, different women of another body type, like a slimmer body type, which is, unfortunately, is the truth. Like Lizzo, she got so much slack. And she's such a beautiful woman. Like, why, man, Grace? I'm just saying, like, that's a great song. She should have been out. And that song came out in 2017. And that song hit till like 2019. And I'm like, wait, where's she been at? And people like, oh, she been arrived, sis. And you're like, what? Because people need to open their eyes that there's a broader certain type of beauty in the industry and in life, in the world in general. People are in different shapes and sizes, and we're all talented, but it just has to be shown. It just has to be proven that women need to have the same equal advantages as men within these topics of STEM, like doctors, nurses. It's just something that needs to be talked about, and also bring it up to your friend groups. Like, I know I'm friends with a lot of males, and I'm just like, dude, don't be saying that. When you see like a girl in a music video, be like, oh yeah, she bad, or they be tearing girls down if they see them in a music video, but you hear a guy and his song and what he's talking about. I'm just like, what is the difference?
Yeah, and also to bring, like, with the recent Golden Globe nominations, there's this show called I May Destroy You, and Emily in Paris. Emily in Paris got nominated over I May Destroy You and got no nod. And I May Destroy You was made by a strong Black woman who told a very moving story about rape culture, and she didn't get nominated. And it's just, and Emily in Paris, while it is a good show, they should have represented that woman. They should have represented her movie. She put so much work into it. And I felt like I could find a piece of me in the show. And it's just so disheartening.
So the question that I want to pose to my panelists is, have you ever experienced feeling like you have to be in a box in certain, I know we've talked about STEM, but feeling like you have to be in a box in order to fit um like a certain location, or just like what you wanted to do, like being in STEM, or just having to feel like you had to fit in the certain box that society has made for us? Like, what are some instances where you felt like, dang, I have to stoop down to the level, even though you don't?
I don't know if it's about stooping down to a level, but I do know that there are a lot of times in which, just like when I was really young, like maybe like in elementary school or middle school, where it was very damaging to not have anybody that looks like me, that had a background like me on television. I won't chalk this up to Western culture or just like American culture, but our TV, our movies, our music, I feel like more than any other nation is like the utmost importance. I mean, we pay these actors tens of millions of dollars, and we pay our doctors, our lawyers, our soldiers so much less. So there has to be something that we keep these people a gold standard to. And I remember um, it was when the movie for The Hate You Give came out. And I was really upset because I read the book and I had the cover, like it was a limited edition cover with the girl who had skin on the cover just as dark as mine. And when they casted the main character as Amelia Steinberg, I went to my friends, mostly white, because, like I went to my Black friends from like my hometown, but I talked to my white friends and I was like, this is really upsetting me. And they really didn't understand. And they didn't understand because they've never been in a case in which they could not name a single actor who was the same race and gender and skin tone as them, who was even around their age. Can any of you name a dark-skinned Black actress who is around our age that has been in more than one notable like work of production? I can't do it. I cannot do it. I can't think of it.
And I like what you brought up about seeing representation, Boomy, because like even now, like TV has gotten a little bit more diverse, but not much. Especially like now, what they'll do is they'll put like a token Black in. Like you'll have a whole room of white people and they'll sprinkle in that one or two Black people. So we can say, look, we're diverse now. Like, no, you're not. And then most of the time, those token Black people can't even be Black people. They just have to be white people. Like they just got a coat of paint painted brown. Like you can't talk the way you want to. You can't act the way you want to. You have to act like everyone else.
And also, I just realized that earlier I didn't mention the great woman who made I May Destroy You. Her name is Michelle Cowell, and I encourage you all to go watch that. Everyone watching this, go watch it and learn something from it. So yeah.
Is the show on HBO?
It's on HBO Max, and you can find it on Hulu subscription. So yeah.
And adding on to what Boomy and Naya said, sorry, Jaina, adding on to what they said about representation, I completely agree. I don't think that when I was growing up, there was a lot of people who looked like me either. And if they were there, they wouldn't be ever like the main character ever. Or if they were the main character, it would have to fit into the stereotype of what, a typical brown girl would be, which is usually like really, really smart and has really strict parents or whatever. But yeah, there's definitely a lack of representation, and that really, really matters. And I think that the whole thing with like the token character, they'll put someone there, but it won't actually represent, that culture or who those group of people are.
And then not to mention that, like, think back to when you were younger and you'd watch all the Disney movies. Because, like, come on, we all watch Disney movies, right? There is only one Black princess, and she was a frog for most of the movie. So, like, imagine a little white girl and a little Black girl sitting together watching these Disney movies, like everyone except for Tiana. That little white girl is going to see more representation than that little black girl. Like it starts from when you're like 5 and just continues for the rest of your life.
And even just besides race, I always hated that question, like, who's your favorite Disney princess, or like, which Disney princess would you be? Because one, I would always answer the same way. I'd be like, Tiana, because she's only a black one. But besides that, when you think about most of the Disney princesses, and this kind of ties back into gender roles, besides, I don't know, Merida, Mulan, what redeeming quality do these princesses have? They're either damsels in distress, they're either like not talking for half the movie, or they need to be helped by somebody else. Unless it's Merida or Mulan, that's the plot. And when you kind of have that as the top grossing stories of female protagonists, is that what I have to look up to? Is that my hero's journey, to be saved by a prince?
Yeah.
It doesn't sound that appealing.
What you just said, but like also like speaking on back, if you go back to like the 1960s, 1940s, 1950s, like Black women were maids. We were maids. The whole video, whole movie, like you would get one line, be like, what do you need, master? That's it. And it's like, they even, oh God, her name is not coming to me, but I think her name is Hattie
McDaniels?
Yes. She couldn't even sit in the same room to accept her award. Like, come on now. I mean, I know we have evolved, but I still takes me back to that. And just thinking about roles from then to now, we're still evolving. And I understand that we're still evolving, and we've had a lot of representation like on Netflix or on HBO, but I think there's still more work that has to be done when it comes to women in film and in television and music and even in radio. And I know that Jana had something to add to it as well. Did you want to speak, Jana?
Yes, I actually wanted to slightly talk about how Tyler Perry perpetuates just so much anti-blackness to Black women constantly. Everyone like holds him up like, oh my gosh, he includes all these like Black people inside his films, because his films are like his shows and his movies are predominantly Black. Like we have seen it, like the haves and the have-nots, all the Medea movies, like Love Thy Neighbor, like we all know the Tyler Perry shows and movies, but it keeps putting these same people in the same roles. Like for example, there's this light-skinned Black woman over here who's like, oh, I'm like a damsel in distress, like I need help, like I need a man, and the man I had before, he's just like, he's not good, and he is dark skinned, and he's like, I need someone to save me. And then here comes little light-skinned black man who's like, hi, I'm here to save you, like I'm the right man for you, I'm Mr. Right. And always the dark-skinned Black guy who's beating her, and it's always the dark-skinned Black woman who is the heroin addicted wife to this light-skinned Black man who needs someone to like fix them up. And it's always Medea who is who is seen as like kind of like subconsciously seen as like the bad person, the evil person. She's seen like the archetype of the angry Black woman. Tyler Perry perpetuates this misogynoir, which is it's the like kind of like I call the triangle of misogyny, anti-Blackness, misogyny, anti-Blackness, and also colorism together to shape misogynoir, which can be seen with people like Michelle Obama, how in Fox News, she was seen during Obama's presidency, she was seen as a savage, she was seen as a beast. You can see political cartoons of her like drawn as a gorilla, but then Melania Trump comes along, and then she's like, oh my gosh, she's so regal, she's so poised, look at her outfits, look at her, she looks so beautiful. But then with Michelle Obama, they'll paint her as a savage. It's the double standards. And then going back to it in media, you see it in films with Tyler Perry, where he perpetuates colorism and anti-Blackness and misogyny all together, but then it's coupled up and look at all this diversity. Look at all this integration. Look at all this intersectionality. When really it's just misogyny, colorism, and anti-Blackness all coupled into one.
Yeah, Jana, you really you went through it all. You went through it all. I want us to make sure we stay focused on gender roles. And I think you brought up a lot of different things that intersectionality, I'm glad you brought that up, because when we talk about feminism, when we talk about like what it means to be a woman, that type of standard is hard to meet depending on what race you are. And it's a very, very, I want to have the type of conversation because it's something that's always been in the back of my mind, but I never had a way to put words to it. Like, for example, I've always noticed that when you look at films that have Black female protagonists, it's always pain at the center. The plot is centered in pain and struggle and plight. And while there are many different types of narratives that have women at the center of it, I don't know that that type of angle is as abundant as when it is with a Black protagonist at the center of it who happens to be a woman. And like Jana was saying, this is perpetuated not just by white directors, but by Black directors as well. And it's an issue in the film industry because you build this sort of idea in order to keep that hero's journey, which we all know and love, of that strong, independent Black woman. She can deal with drug addiction, she can deal with poverty, she can deal with abuse and still come out on the other side. That is not a standard that is held to all women. And it is a harmful standard because it neglects asking for help, it neglects asking for mental health resources, it neglects being vulnerable as something that is not allowed depending on your race and your gender. And it's harmful to see on screen because it matriculates into real life and how we handle, as Black women on this call, how we handle different types of struggles. Do we shrug it off and say, I got to go through this, this is just enough to bear? Or do we ask for help? Well, if my favorite characters aren't doing the same and they're faring well, what decision am I going to make? And that's really harmful to have when you have little girls who keep on seeing the same thing over and over again until they grow up.
That is a great way, and this has been a great conversation so far. To transition into some of our online questions, because we have gotten some questions live. You guys mentioned representation a lot, and that is very, very important as a person of color, a woman, everything. And one of our biggest forms of representation in real life, because we've been talking about society as a whole, is in politics, especially right now. So what does it mean to have a female as the Vice President of the United States? And I want to hear from some people who haven't really contributed so far. So like Becca, Mega, if you guys want to answer this question, go right ahead.
Yeah, well, I definitely think before I get into that, this idea of intersectionality is incredibly important because as a white woman, I have been represented in a lot of ways that women of color have not. So I think that's definitely important to acknowledge, first of all. But I think definitely having a woman as a vice president is something that we've never seen ever. And that the fact that I get to see it in my lifetime is amazing, and it's a great stride. And I just hope we get to see even more women empowered.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything that Becca said. I mean, seeing a vice president, a female vice president who comes from Indian descent as well as African American descent, it's just amazing, especially for all the little girls that are like looking up to her. I mean, you don't have to agree with everything she says, but simply to have someone in that high of a position, it's just inspiring for all of us.
How about we hear from a middle school perspective on this, because this impacts everyone in society. So Megan and I, if you guys want to answer.
I definitely think that this is like it's a big step because I know that it's never happened before, and it's a big step in just women being able to be represented more. Yeah, I just think it's a great step. Yeah.
For me, I can't lie. When I thought about like having a first woman vice president or even a first woman president, I imagined her to be white and blonde and probably thin. So I did not expect a woman of color to be the first female vice president. So that was a surprise, but a pleasant surprise nonetheless.
Yeah, I agree with Naya. I think that I was surprised too, and I feel like it's because, to be honest, I feel like we're all kind of made to believe that there's sort of an order to these things. First, it's going to be white women, then it's going to be women of color. So I was really surprised that it kind of just skipped the order. So I think that the very notion that she is a person of color and she's a woman and she just is in such a high position that kind of just dismantles that whole mindset. And I also think that it's this kind of unfortunate. I definitely think that her being vice president is amazing, inspirational, and never done before, literally. But it's unfortunate because I'm already seeing people saying, like, oh, she's kind of bossy. Like, why does she talk from her nose? Like, why is she like this? But I know for a fact, if it was any of the other white men vice presidents, you wouldn't be paying attention to that. So as soon as whenever it's a woman, we have to look at the more, or people tend to look at the more surface level things. No one's looking at her, or a lot of people are not looking at her like policy, her decisions, what she's actually saying, what she's advocating for, who she's advocating for. They're talking about why is she talking from her, like, why is she talking from her throat? Like, why is she talking from her nose? Like, why does she look like that? Like, they automatically have to go and jump to these very surface level things.
And I just want to say that I just want to add that just because we have a woman of color as a vice president does not mean that their journey ends here. It does not mean that we have everything we need and want. It does not stop the journey. It does not slow down the journey. We still have a very, very, very long way to go, and we have to work hard to meet our goals. So I just want everyone who's watching, do not think that the journey is over, or that imagine that women should be placed there now and just be okay and just let everything be, because it's not going to happen. This is a big.
I also want to add on that, and I think this is very important as a group that I would say is often marginalized, that just because Kamala Harris is a woman, that doesn't mean she's exempted from accountability. That's always something that happens when you have someone that breaks a glass ceiling like she has, where, oh, well, it doesn't matter if she does something wrong because at least she's the first Black and the first Asian and the first woman. But no, we have to realize that, identity doesn't give you immunity. And so for us to continue to rise strong, intelligent women up to these high stages, we need to make sure that we are not blindly supporting people that we don't agree with. The first woman to be a Supreme Court justice, I mean, as someone who just like casually isn't interested in law and like reads judicial opinions, I don't agree with every opinion that she's ever decided on the Supreme Court. Our new Supreme Court Justice, Amy Coney Barrett, I don't agree with her past things. It doesn't matter that she's a woman. And those are things we need to consider when we champion and we uplift. That doesn't mean we're going to tear each other down. We're still a community, but being part of a community of women, a family of women, means that we look for the best in our fellow sister, not exempt them or look a blind eye. And I think that's something to keep very important when it comes to the advancement of women in this country and really all over the world. Because being feminist means you want to keep women at the same level as men. I'm going to call Kamala Harris out the same way I would call Joe Biden out. Point blank.
And what Bumi was saying also sparked another thought in my mind. A lot of females they want it both ways. They want males in the society to be weaker, but then they want to be seen as stronger. Like, you can't have it both ways. Either you want pity or you want equality. You can't, there's no both to that. Like, if you say you want to be equal, then be equal. You cannot not be equal and all of a sudden it's sympathetic at your convenience. Now it's convenient for you to be less. Like, you can't do that.
Yeah, we're in a multi-storied building right now. So we just broke another layer and we just have to keep going through them and keep breaking them. And there is going to be a day where we reach that last level and we see the sky, we see the sun breaking through. But you're totally right now. You're totally right, Bumi, that there's going to be different layers. We're going to have different means of getting through them, but it's just going to have to keep happening. We're just going to have to keep working for it.
Yeah, I think what all of you have said is a really good point. You definitely have to hold everyone accountable. And I think there's a difference. We can celebrate the strides that have been made while still keeping these figures accountable. Like, I know seeing pictures, it was really heartwarming seeing pictures of little Black girls with their shirts that say, "My VP looks like me." Seeing those pictures warmed my heart. But that doesn't mean that you have to blindly follow that, just like Bumi was saying. But I think celebrating the victory of progress is something that we can do.
Yeah, I
Speaking-
wanted to. Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
go Gabby.
Okay, thank you. So I wanted to add on to what Becca said. Like, this is just the beginning. And honestly, yes, she made it to vice president. And now we need to work our way up, because now she's setting an example for little girls and to be better and to work hard, and that no matter what, you should be stronger. And I do feel like, as a Hispanic woman, I do feel like there's always that little bit of extra work that I should be putting into everything I do, so that way I can be better and I can be out there in the world. So I do feel like this is going to be a work in progress for many people, but I do feel like you can't use this as an excuse to be out there. You have to work hard to know what you want to do in life.
And I also feel like sometimes when you get to be proud of something, like let's imagine there's a boy who's playing tackle football, right? And let's just say he has shelves and shelves and shelves of trophies. He can brag to his friends for days, weeks, months on ends about trophies. But let's say a girl like me, because I have a lot of academic achievements, the moment I start talking about it, it's you're bragging, or you need to be more modest. But he was just going on for 15 days about all his sports trophies. And the minute I accomplish something, I have to be quiet.
Yeah, and you all have brought up great points about keeping up this progress after events like this. Like, I heard something before that you can't break the glass ceiling and then let all the shards fall on the people below you and just, celebrate your own accomplishments and call it a day. You have to lift people up once you break through. And so that leads me to another online question that we got, and it's about society as a whole. What can men do to stop the perpetuation of the patriarchal society?
Oh, Caroline, would you like to go? Okay. I think it all boils down to being open and listening, because I feel like many of us women, we just aren't heard because they don't want to hear us, just because we are women. So it starts with being respectful. If we are showing you respect, then we deserve it too. And just listen to us.
I also feel like it's the willingness to talk and discuss. Honestly, I don't care if you feel comfortable or not. I don't have time to sit here and wait my whole life for you to feel comfortable. Get with it. Get up. Stop being a baby. Like they like to say, man up and talk about it.
Also, I would just say, because Black History Month, I'm just gonna say how it is. Support Black women. Support women in general, but support these Black women out here. Support them, because I feel like women in general, we do so much. Think about your mom, think about your grandma, think about your ancestors. Break their backs, carried you for 9 months, okay? Back pain and all. For you to be disrespectful, I think not. I just support what women have to say, like how Naya says, but just listen to us, because we have sense. That woman intuition is in us for a reason. I'm just saying, all these intelligent women on this call right now, just listen to us, because I think we're actually going to help you in the future if you would just take a second.
And I think another helpful thing is think about how you view your mother. You probably don't view your mother as weak, unaccomplished, not capable of anything, a damsel in distress. Don't view any other girl that way. And especially if you view your mother as weak and completely incapable, stop it, because she carried you for 9 months. You can take out the trash once. Stop it.
Right. And believe it or not, feminists are fighting for men too. The effects of the patriarchy affects everyone. I mean, male suicide rate's 20% higher than female suicide rate. That's for a reason. It's because men are kind of told by the institution set up by the patriarchy that they shouldn't talk about their feelings, that they have to be strong, and that women are the ones that cry, that feel emotion. It affects everyone. We're not, it's not just us we're looking out for. It's everyone. It affects everyone.
And I just wanted to say that wait, like what Nai said, like when you're listening to us, like don't be microaggressive. Like don't say little petty things while you're listening. Like that's not open-minded. It's like
The cat
don't
girls
be
got
petty.
go.
Yeah, don't be microaggressive because that's just so sexism and you're not being open-minded. And don't be so certain in your beliefs. Like certainty, it's just not good. Be uncertain, and in uncertainty, you have open-minded. And when you're open-minded, there's no microaggression. So you really have to look into yourself and go to therapy, please.
Honestly, because like passive aggressiveness is just as bad as normal aggressiveness. Like if we're trying to have a serious talk and you're like, oh, my mom's calling me. We all know your mom is not calling you. You're trying to get out of it because you feel uncomfortable or you have some inner guilt residing in you. You need to do an inner self check. Like if you feel guilty, that's not my issue, that's yours. And you need to look inside yourself and figure out, what did you do wrong? Or what did you not do wrong?
And I think
Go ahead.
and I think that's where change comes in, because if we are not just trying to change others, but in this forum, we're trying to change ourselves as well. Because if we don't do something about it, if you're just listening to us talking, then I mean, there's no really a good point if you're not going to change for the better. And if you're not going to change a little bit of things that you're like, oh, maybe I should not, like Taylor said, when for the music videos, maybe I shouldn't talk about girls in that way when when they're dancing or something like that, because that's the process of change, and that is the process for a better society and for a better world.
I know this is going backwards a little. Oh, I'm sorry, Becca. Were you saying something?
Yeah, I was actually just going to go off kind of what you were saying earlier, and Princess, and what Gabby just touched on, this idea of changing for the better. I think a lot of the time we forget that part of that is admitting when we are wrong. And that's something that, because it's hard to come to terms, look in on yourself and say, this is something that I've been doing wrong, or this is something that I've done wrong. So I think that's really an important step in knowing that it's okay to have done something wrong, as long as you are acknowledging that, listening to the perspective of others to better yourself from that.
And we don't expect you to like go out and save the world on your own. Like it starts with simple things like stop saying you throw like a girl, you play like a girl, anything else that's demeaning that ends with like a girl. Stop saying that. That's a change already, just by stop using that type of terminology and language.
That's a great point, that we're here to have a conversation today. And a part of having the conversation, having these tough conversations and making changes, recognizing that not everyone in the conversation is at the same level. So we've been throwing out a lot of big words like microaggressions and the patriarchy, but I know we have some middle schools on this panel, and we have people watching this who just aren't at, like they said, the same level, depending on whatever grade they're in. So can we define some of those points? Like Princess, you mentioned microaggressions. Can you define that? And I think Caroline mentioned the patriarchy. Can you guys just give a quick definition for those?
Okay, so microaggression really is just like, it's a broad thing, like when someone's talking and you just make a snide comment, that's microaggression. Or when you say like a girl, yeah, you think you're feminist, but then you still say things like a girl, cry like a girl, things like a girl. That is microaggression. It's not, to me, I don't really have a definite definition for it, like something concrete, a concrete definition, but that's like an example. That I can only give you an example. Like, don't be sneaky. Like, I rather you just go out and say it than have that microaggressiveness and just say it to my face instead of just being microaggressive, because it's really insulting. So
and by the way, Amaya, that hurt me. I knew what those words meant, and you just had to call me out like that.
I'm saying most middle schoolers aren't at the same level. Like I'm saying, like it doesn't matter what grade you're in. Just there's some people who aren't as informed on these topics, and like you said, You don't have to go out and be preaching the gospel or anything. I just want people to be able to learn these terms, even if it's at an early age. Is what
Oh,
I'm
okay, because
saying.
it kind of felt like you were staring into my soul as you said that. And I was
That's
like,
my
hold
bad.
up, you can't do that.
Also, I just want to say that about uncomfortable conversations, change will only happen with uncomfortable conversations. Every conversation that will inspire change is always going to be uncomfortable. So you should strive to always have uncomfortable conversations. That's how we bring change about.
Honestly.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Caroline.
Oh, thank you so much. Just speaking towards what the patriarchy is, it's basically a society that it's a reflection of a society that's kind of been set up by men being in power. In our case, normally white men being in positions of power, and the institutions and systems that have kind of followed that in our society. And Naya, I know you probably know more than me by a long shot. You're good to go.
Yeah, I think that something really to sum up what we've all been saying is that to answer the original question, like what can men do to stop the perpetuation of the patriarchy? The main issue is that, and this is on both sides, this isn't just like an ideology that men hold. There is this idea that men and women are so fundamentally that one another cannot identify with one another, which is an issue. A person told me one time that anything can be solved by using the golden rule. And while I disagree with that, because what you want can differ based on your identity, I do think that this problem in particular can be solved if people step back, especially those in power, often men, thought about how they would want to be treated if they were in somebody else's shoes. Like, for example, when it comes to school, in our school system, things like lack of access to menstrual products or very, very specific dress codes that only really attack one side of the school population, the female side, and even sometimes the Black female side of the population are rampant. And when people like in school systems within their own grassroots organization, they want to get rid of them, it's very hard because people, particularly men, don't understand basically what all the hub is about. Like, why does it matter so much? And that's an issue. Has there ever been a time where any of you felt like your school policy, particularly in the ways that I mentioned before with menstrual products and just dress code, have affected not only your experience as a student, but just how you saw yourself as a female student at your school?
I do. So like as soon as you said dress codes, I went and I found my lovely agenda for this year because I was like, I gotta have the facts in front of me. So our OMMS dress code is basically some like the main, like your shirts and your shirts and your skirts, they must come to the ends of your fingertips when your hands are extended. Tell me where you can find girl shorts that are that long. Where can you find girl shirts that go all the way to the end of your, especially if you're tall. Like if you're above like 5'3", you have to buy boy shorts and then they're going to be sagging and you don't want to sag. And then it's also like you can't show bare skin between the upper chest and the mid thigh. So like if your shirt is like 1 inch too tight, hold on, you're dress coded, go to the office. And it's like, I don't see boys getting dressed. Like when we were in school, I don't see boys getting dress coded. Because like really the only things they had to worry about was baseball caps and hoods. That's it. Everything else is designed towards us. Spaghetti straps, tank tops, and not to mention your bra straps can't be visible. Like what happens if it slips? Oh no, put that back in or I'm gonna send you. What are you gonna tell my mom? I'm sorry, her bra strap slipped out. She has to go home for the day. We're suspending her.
I swear, it's like they want us to dress like we go to Children's Place. I'm like, wait a minute.
For real.
But like the shorts thing, like I'm like, where can you find shorts that are like long? I'm 5'9". I'm like a pretty tall person. And a lot of people don't believe this, but I'm 5'9" and I'm a pretty tall person. And I'm like, finding long shorts like that is not gonna work. I'm like, it's like it's really like baffling to me because I've seen this dress code be implemented on some of my bigger friends, plus size friends, where she was wearing a skirt and they're like, you have to wear some shorts underneath it. And she was like, why? And she goes, it doesn't like go to like your length. Mind you, she's like tall as well. And she's like, it doesn't go to like the length of your fingers. Like that's what it's supposed to go. And it was like almost there basically. But then you saw like other girls walking through the school who were like a lot skinnier than she was. And their skirts were like a lot shorter than hers. But no one ever dress coded her. No one ever dress coded them. They only dress coded her, and they dress coded her on several occasions. And then women who had bigger breasts or bigger butts or like bigger hips, they got dress coded a lot with like, you need to like pull up like your leggings, you need to pull up like your jeans, like you need to wear like looser thin clothes. And I'm like, you really want us to dress like a garbage bag, so we are not showing any of our features of ourselves, our physical features. The thing is that they're there for a reason. They're there. If you want to show them off, cool. If you don't want to show them off, cool as well. But we should not be penalized because of the way our body looks, the way that someone created us, the way that someone created us as this. We should not be penalized the way our body looks, something that we cannot control.
Exactly. And like, Taylor, you want to go or you want me to go?
Yeah, I wanted to say, like, especially including dress code, but also let's just get real. Women being on our menstrual cycles, it's like a race against time. Like, if you start, just being honest, if you start and you're like, oh, I don't have a pad or I don't have a tampon, then it's like the embarrassing factor of like, I have to go to the nurse's office now. And then like you go down to the nurse's office and then you're like, get this pad, and you're like, okay, this a little thin. And then like it's like then you have a stain for the rest of the day, or it's like people walking around be like, why do you have that around your waist? Be like, don't worry about it. And then the teachers are like, can you like take that? I'm like, what is you talking about? No. And then you gotta call your mom and you gotta be like, Ma, look, I need you to come get me, or I need you to come drop something off. And then your mom's at work, so she can't come get you. So you're like, dang, I'm in a bind. That's why I wish in the factor that there was like, pads or tampons in the girls' restroom. So we could just avoid.
I feel you though. Like in school, I'd be scared to hang out with my girl group because like we'd all synchronize and then it gets scary. So I'm like, no, y'all, if it's close, y'all stay away from me. I'm not catching whatever y'all got. And with the whole dress code thing, like I'm gonna be real. If you are skinnier, you will tend to find shorts that will go down to your fingertips. Like I compare it to water in a sense. Imagine water in a tall, skinny glass and you fill it up like 1 cup. The water is going to go a lot higher than imagine water in a bowl, which is rounder and more curvier. The water is not going to go as high as water in a glass. And that goes the same for skinny bodies and curvy bodies. You have a curvy body, the chances of you finding shorts that actually fit that code are very slim. And like I'm 5'5", but my fingertips go down a lot longer than it should be.
Jana was saying something. Oh, sorry, was someone talking? Okay, so Jana said something about like it's like they want us to shop at Children's Place. Well, when I was in middle school, I did shop at Children's Place. Yeah, I didn't have the best style, don't judge, but we had like kind of a uniform school, so I would go and try and get like khaki skirts from there and like polos. And like they still didn't meet with the dress code, even from Children's Place. They don't like anything that we do. I mean, we had shorts for gym class, and then they were like, you could wear shorts or leggings. And then they were like, okay, no more leggings. You can only wear shorts. It's like, we cover up, you have a problem. Like, what can we do?
And the hardest part about it, I just have a question. Have y'all ever been in a school in which the little box they have for the pads, it actually has anything in there? I've never been in a school in which they actually have a box for pads in which you can put a quarter in and it'll actually give you something. First of all, I shouldn't be having to pay for something to help me deal with like excessively bleeding for like 24 hours a day. That just makes no sense. But second of all, I just want for all the males watching this, I know that you don't know what it's like to have a period, I'm assuming. But I will say that take a moment to think of the golden rule. If once a month, well, not even once a month, for like 5 days a month, if you're me, you are going through this time in which you are just constantly bleeding, and you find yourself in the middle of class time. Think about when you went to school, where you just don't have anything to help with that. First, you have to go call on your friends, take them out of class. Then if they don't have anything, you have to go and like rush to the nurse before somebody finds you out, because we're ashamed of this normal bodily function. All because of this like charade that we act like teenage girls don't get their periods. It's very, very aggravating, and it adds to the stress of being a female student, to be very frank with you, that I have to go on like a hunting gathering sort of expedition just to deal with my menstrual cycle. Like, it's insanity.
Honestly, it's like a menstrual scavenger hunt. And don't even get me started when it comes on and you have a male teacher. Like, how are you supposed to go up to him and be like, hey, listen, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to go to the nurse, and I can't tell you why, but I'm going to go to the nurse. Like, one time in 6th grade, I remember I had to fake like I was about to barf. So, like, I swear I should have won like an Academy Award. It was brilliant. Like, just to get to the nurse's office so I could go get my bag.
I actually have some information about some strides that are being made. I know how Taylor said about having menstrual products accessible. There's actually a bill right now in the Maryland General Assembly, in the Senate and the House. The Senate bill is number 427. I actually printed it out because I wanted to read it to everyone, share their thoughts on it, because I definitely think this is a really good idea. So it says it requires each county board of education to ensure that each public school provide, at no charge to students, menstrual hygiene products via dispensers in the restrooms at the school, requiring a public, middle, or high school to install menstrual hygiene product dispensers in at least 2 restrooms on or before October 1st, 2021. So this is happening right now that they're talking about this, and I definitely am on board with it. I'm sure based on what everyone said, they're also on board with it. And also, besides the fact that it can be embarrassing, there are people that also can't even afford their own menstrual products. Period poverty is a thing. That's also kind of with intersectionality. Some people have lower socioeconomic status and they cannot afford to even have these products. So if it's accessible in school, that's much more helpful.
Isn't
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll be really quick. But isn't it like, it's sad that this is something that we have to be embarrassed about, that it's embarrassing to ask to go to the nurse's office to get something that we need. I mean, I'll mention like my period sometimes in front of like my dad or something. And the second I say anything like, oh, I need a pad or something, you'll go, ah, like, I don't want to hear it. But I mean, it's a natural anatomical process, and it's something that we should all be proud of, and all menstruators should be proud of. And I use the term menstruators because it's not always women. It could be transgender women or transgender men, who experience periods, or non-binary people. And it's something that we should be proud of. It's like, it's part of us, and it shouldn't be an embarrassment. It's another kind of mindset and stigma that we have to get over in society.
That's a great point. And Becca bringing up the national legislation with the House bill and the Senate leads me to this question about what we can be doing, or what would you like the school system to be doing about these problems with women's rights, not just the menstrual rights, but any other problem that we've brought up here?
I feel like the dress code should almost be revised. Like, obviously not completely revised. Like, obviously there are things there that make sense, like no profanity, no like slurs on your clothes, obviously that part. But like especially the point, not just the rules, but the number of offenses and what happens when you get a number of offenses. Like, for some of the rules, it'll be 1 offense. You get like this little ticket thing. It's really stupid. It's like you overparked your car, even though it's not a car, it's your clothes. And then for others, it'll be like you get 1 and then go to the office. And like Boomy said, excessive bleeding is no fun. But in 6th grade, I watched a girl. She literally got dress coded because she had a stain on the back and no one knew. And the worst part was she was wearing these really cute white pants. They were really cute, but like, the red completely showed and no one told her. And all the boys and all the girls are just laughing at her. And my thing is, we need to stick together. We cannot sit there laughing at each other. Like, you see her, you need to help her. How do you expect to have men-woman unity if we can't even do women-women unity because we're too busy being petty? We need to stop being so petty.
I think another thing that needs to be realized by the school the school board and the people who make these rules is intersectionality. And I know that we've talked a little bit about this over the course of the forum, but I think that it's more harmful than beneficial when people try to paint this like one brush stroke of, okay, well, I'm trying to address female students. Okay, I'll do it this way. Not thinking about that the way that Latino students, female students are handled, the way that Black female students are handled, they're having different experiences within the building. I remember I talked to my principal about how when you have a school dress code that specifically says no bonnets, I'm going to tell you right now, Becky in third period with the blue eyes and blonde hair, she's not wearing a bonnet. I'm going to tell you that right now. I'm the one wearing a bonnet. And that's for me. You made that rule just for me. And it's very, very harmful to see that, because if I'm having a bad hair day, why are you taking away that opportunity for me to like come to school and be confident and not have to worry about that on the back of my head? Thinking about how your particular female student body is depending on their race, depending on their background. Like, for example, there are tons of schools across the United States where they'll say, oh, okay, we're really, really religiously tolerant, but if you're wearing a hijab, okay, I hope you weren't trying to play track this year. Oh, if you're doing a job, oh, well, I guess you can't wear our swimsuit. I guess you're not going to swim this year. Things like that. When you don't take into consideration your students' backgrounds and how you formulate these rules and only cater it to the majority, typically white majority, you're still going to lead into these cycles of discrimination that we've been complaining about and talking about this entire hour. So if I would ask anything from Anne Arundel County Public Schools and really any school system, it would be to look at your female students as what they are, individual women with individual experiences, and seek to address those concerns as it pertains to them.
Also, I think it starts with talking with your peers as well. AACPS, they can try as much as they want. And also give an input, but it starts with the students actually taking initiative as well. Like how we are sitting on this call and actually us being students talking about this. I think it starts with you talking to your peers and being like, if you see like anybody calling a woman or a girl a slur, like I consider like a slur, like the S word or the B word, it's unnecessary. Just be like, hey, that's not cool. Don't say that. Because you wouldn't want somebody to say something like that to you or to your mom. I just think that's highly disrespectful. And we should all treat each other with respect.
So I had two thoughts when Taylor said that. Like, first off, I was thinking about an article I read earlier where like this girl, she got dismissed out of her cheerleading team because she couldn't wear her hair. You know, that half up, half down thing? But she was Black, and Black hair tends to be thicker. So like she can't do her hair in that half up, half down thing. And I was just thinking, like, for example, let's say me and Becca were both on that cheerleading team. I don't know if you like cheerleading or not, but I'd get dismissed because obviously my hair is not going to do that. And Becca's hair, we all know Becca's hair would be able to do that. And like the second thing I was thinking about when you were talking about respect was like the comments males will make sometimes. Like, let's say a really attractive female is walking down the street. You will see males point at her butt and her chest and say all types of things. But if an attractive male walks down the street, you don't see us pointing at your crotch and staring at you. We can't do that. We don't do that. But like they get to do that and it's seen okay. And a male, what I was saying when I was going backwards, like a male rapper can make a song about how many girls he gets into bed at night. And that's expected. That's okay. Like if you're gonna hate sexualized things, hate all of it. Don't just pick and choose. Don't do favorites. That's not what we're doing here.
And also, I just want, sorry, Hallie, you can go.
And I think that like what you said earlier, Naya, you said that when that girl was in that situation where she, her pants got ruined and both like girls and boys were making fun of her. And this doesn't really necessarily answer the question of like, what the school system can do, more really just like what you can do. Like if you're watching out there, I think that a lot of people need to understand that it definitely is like boys also, there's a lot of things that they can as individuals change, but it's also girls too though. And the worst thing than seeing a boy being sexist is seeing a girl being sexist to another girl. like, you know, making fun of them. And the whole, like, with girls, there's so many different factors and so many different pressures that we sort of have to deal with. Like, for example, like, you know, there's different, like, you know, this is sort of minor. There's definitely on larger scales, but there's like the VSCO girl thing. Like, if you're a VSCO girl, like that's suddenly so bad. And we put all these girls into all these different categories, all having their own pros, but all having like cons. Like, whatever category you're put in, there's something bad. Like, oh, you're athletic, that's bad. Like, if you're too smart, that's bad. Like, you're too smart, you're too modest, you're too immodest, you're too, like, it's impossible. And when I see another girl hating another girl, I very much get, like, I don't want to say this, but I very much get pick me, choose me energy. Like, if you're gonna hate another girl, that's women on women crime. Like, if it was up to me, jail time. Anyways, but I really feel like that, I think that women need to hype up other women. It goes a really long way. And that if you're gonna, you know, have a sort of like internal grudge against another woman, like, take a step back and like think about it. Like, really think about it. Like, why am I doing this to my sister? Like, think about it. And I think that we really need to work on ourselves and on as each other and as like a community, and really, you know, build our community to be better.
A lot of you guys have mentioned problems with women in athletics, like cheerleading, and we've mentioned sort of the colorism part of it, but let's talk about the inequality or inequity with women in general, even after legislation like Title IX. So what do you have to say on that, Megan, to start?
Can you start by defining Title IX for those who don't know?
I think Naya, you were going to define the Title IX.
Oh yeah, so Title IX, let me pull it up. So, no person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education, program, or activity. Which in general, honestly, it seems and is very helpful. But based on a study that the Women's Sports Foundation did, by age 14, which I'm guessing is like the average age, like for everyone in this meet, girls are dropping out of sports at the rate of 2 times of boys. And girls have 1.3 million fewer opportunities to play high school sports than boys do. And like, especially the peer pressure, like girls who do, for instance, tackle football or basketball are more likely to receive bullying and social isolation, both from boys and other girls. Like, they made even the term tomboy sound bad. Like, I'm a tomboy, I don't have any issue with it. Like, you can say whatever you want about me, but at the end of the day, you want to get out on the field and we can handle it.
And I know, like, if you were to go up and tell a boy that you play tackle football, they'll probably be surprised. The sports that us women are expected to stick to, like gymnastics and cheerleading, in fact, like, a lot of people say that they aren't even sports. And like, it's called competitive cheerleading for a reason, because it most definitely is a sport.
And I want everyone in this meet or at home, just like raise your hand if you've ever heard something akin to the statement of male sports are just more exciting. Yeah. Like, everyone just raise your, so that's everyone in here. So like, as females get older, in my opinion, it's not the lack of representation that's necessarily the inequality, because like 40% of all sports participants are female. So that's pretty much half and half. It's the lack of recognition, because out of that 40%, only 4% of females sports receive of like all the sports media coverage. And when we're more likely than males to be portrayed in like a sexually proactive pose. Mostly, like, you know, like shots of the backside. Y'all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and like, let's talk about the immense pay difference of women in athletics and men in athletics. So I have some stats on, like, you know, sports in general, and then I really like talking about like the women's soccer team, because they're so inspiring and their case is like rock solid. So first, I'm just going to preface by saying that, like, in basketball, golf, tennis, baseball, all of the above, Men in those sports are paid on average 15% to 100% more than their women counterparts. And I hear people throw around the argument all the time that the men teams, they're watched more, they bring in more income. But that's honestly just like a complete lie. So women a year in soccer earn a maximum of $99,000 a year, whereas their male counterparts make up to $250,000 a year. Another example is at the FIFA World Cup, the women's soccer team won $30 million, and the men's soccer team won, $400 million. So that's $30 million, $400 million. And the weird thing about that is that on a normal year, the women's soccer team brings in about $50.8 million a year, and the men's team brings in $49.9 million a year. So that's not a huge difference in how much they bring in, but that's a huge difference in how much they're being paid. And another thing I wanted to mention was that when the women's soccer team won the FIFA World Cup, they brought in that year $1.9 million. They're bringing in just as much, if not way more, than the men's soccer team, but the pay difference is just so immense. It's almost like I can't even believe that exists.
And when we talk about women's sports, and I noticed this with today's Monday, so the Super Bowl was yesterday. I saw on Twitter a lot of people were talking about how Tom Brady is the greatest athlete of all time. He is the greatest athlete to have ever lived. And I was like, did we forget that Serena Williams has 23 Grand Slam titles and counting? She's not retired yet. And she won one of those titles while being pregnant. I'm sorry, we must have all slipped on some imaginary rock and then forgot about that accomplishment, because that is not just a feat for women's sports, Black women's sports. That's not even a feat just for tennis. That is, I'm pretty sure, the most championships that any athlete has ever won in their respective sport. And people are talking about how Tom Brady is the greatest of all sports. First of all, Michael Jordan exists. I'm not going to get into that segue, but it's an issue of just being dismissed. And especially in the case of Serena Williams, you can see a lot of this way that the media creates a narrative that she's angry, that she's, aggressive, that she's, too masculine. And I think that with a lot of things that have to do with women in power, women who are at the top of their game, you have this narrative of anger that always gets attached. You can see this a lot with the feminist movement. Anger is always attached to these women who just want change. And so I'm going to pose this question to all of you. And let me make sure that I get everything that I want to say here. We just got this question in. Feminists are often described as angry. And what is the place of anger in advancing or hindering our cause for equality between the sexes? Can you think of any examples in pop culture? We've already talked about it, and female anger and how it's being treated differently. When Serena Williams smashes her racket on the court because she's upset about a serve, she gets kicked out of the game. When Roger Federer does it, when Djokovic does it, when Andy Murray does it. For those who don't watch tennis, those are like male tennis players. Everyone from the people in the crowd to the announcer, just like, it's been a rough game. That's just one example of how I feel like there's a double standard between how anger is portrayed in women and men.
Yeah.
I feel like,
go for it.
I feel like I think some people mistaken anger for passion. So just being passionate about something and then having it getting directly how you want it, you're just like, yes, this is what I want to do. This is how I need to have it done. And I feel so energetic and I feel so much about this, like how a lot of us are on this call right now. But some men or some people, not just stating men, but it's just some people are just like, why are you getting so angry about it? And it was just like, I'm not angry. I'm just passionate. It's just fire that's burning inside me that I just want to let you know. But I feel like when it comes to angry, I can understand how if women, it comes out angry because we are. I mean, dang, we've been through so much. You think about the women's rights movement, and then we're still trying to get past that, and we're still speaking it today in 2021, how there are still issues within women, within all these different type of industries. Heck yeah, I'm mad. And if I'm mad, so what? And if you were to be mad too, if you were in my position. So I think it's when we're expressing how we feel about situations and how we feel like there's inequality, I think it's more of passion, and heck yeah, it can be anger, but also it's important for it to be internalized to other people as, wow, this is an issue. Not so much, dang, she's just angry.
And what Boomy was saying about Serena Williams, like, it doesn't help with the whole angry black woman stereotype, because I feel like even if a white woman slammed down her racket, I feel like she may get us. I'm not a big tennis watcher, but like whatever happens, are there like penalties? I'm assuming they're penalties. So like you get like a penalty or something like that. I'm pretty sure she wouldn't get kicked out of the game though. And like, I feel like that's the thing. Everyone has a breaking point. It's different for some people. Some people have a longer burning fuse. Some people have a short fuse, but everyone has the breaking point. And my thing is, how long do you expect me to keep getting mistreated and disrespected before I blow up on you? How calm do you expect me to be? How nice do you expect me to be? Like, I have a nice side and I have a petty side, and a lot of people bring out that petty side, and that's not my fault, it's yours. Fix yourself. Stop telling me to fix myself, because it's your attitude that needs work.
Yes, I can actually relate to that a lot because in school I'm always like very fun and happy and like very laughing, but there's moments in which like I can be very serious, and when I'm serious, I actually mean what I say. And if it hurts you, well, I'm sorry, that was not my intention. But especially in sports, there is a lot of people that like to show and that like to bring out, like what Naya said, like to bring out our petty side and our angry side, as a lot of people say it. So I do believe that yes, we are all happy and we can all be a very laughable we can all be laughable people, but I do believe that especially in sports, there shouldn't be any discrimination when it comes to emotions, because sports is a sport, and that's something that people use to relieve stress, to have fun. So for people to bring them down on something they love, that's just not okay.
And I would Oh, sorry about that. I would say that any activist portrays anger of some kind. I mean, anger in activism is kind of synonymous with passion, if you think about it. And like, we all witnessed the raid on the Capitol. I would say that the participants of that portrayed a lot of anger. However, those seem to be the same people saying that feminists are just so angry and aggressive. So I would say that there's anger in any form of activism. And I play tennis, and their gender's a construct, and girls are brought up to be docile and calm. And if boys kind of yell or act out, it's boys being boys, they're maturing, they mature slower. And it's funny because I'll be on a court of like, there'll be a bunch of different people playing their matches, and you'll hear all these girls saying like, oh, sorry if they hit it to the wrong place, like, oh, here's the ball, thank you so much. Whereas the guys are just dead silent, and it doesn't seem like they have any manners, or they're never apologizing or saying thank you. It's a whole different like way of acting, and there's nothing in our DNA that says to act more aggressively for guys and less aggressively for girls. It's how we're brought up, and it's interesting to see how that plays out between the two genders.
Princess, if you don't mind, after you go, I have a story to share.
Yeah, that's completely fine. So I just want to say about, because I'm more of the movie industry and entertainment industry, and recently I've been really, well, not recently, but for a few years I've been really into Marvel. And when Brie Larson was cast as Captain Marvel, I remember I saw this one on TikTok, and she was overconfident. She was confident, not overconfident. She was just being confident in her role and her ability to be a good actor, which I think she should. And in the comments, everyone was saying she's being cocky or she's being arrogant and all these things, and how she thinks she's the best, and they're mad because I was like, what are you mad about? I was like, Robert Downey Jr. acts the same way she does, and he doesn't get no slack about it. What is the difference? She's just confident in her ability to be a good actress, and she is a good actress. So what is this? Is such a double standard. Like, the comment section was horrendous. Everyone was trolling her. I did not like the energy at all.
Okay, so everyone who played a sport either before COVID or still plays a sport now, raise your hand. Now, put your hand down if it's something outside of gymnastics, cheerleading, lacrosse, any type of, what's it called? I'm forgetting what it's called. Field hockey, anything outside of that. Okay, now keep your hand only raised if it is some form of basketball, football, or soccer. Okay, so that only leaves 3 people's hands up. So before COVID, I played flag football because at this age, I can't really do tackle because let's be honest, I get myself running to the dirt. I can't handle 200-pound boys. Okay, so I was the only girl in the league and the fastest person on my team and probably in the league, but they'll probably say no if you ask them. So I remember one team we played against was really nasty. The other boys would drag each other to the ground, which you're not supposed to do, obviously, because it's flag, not tackle, without lectures. When I did it, it was considered dangerous. And when I overheard the other coach talking to his team, he kept calling me a boy, referring to me as a he, even though he knew I was a girl. To get inside my head, he's like, get him. And I'm just looking at him like, excuse you? Like, do you want me to come over there? I see Taylor sucking her teeth. She's like, oh no. And even after all that, I still outran his whole team and they lost. So screw you. You lost. You suck. This girl just beat your whole team. How do you feel? I hope you're crying.
Okay, bring up another story real quick. This doesn't really have to do with refs or whatnot, but the credit that women get for sports is so much less than men, regardless of their accomplishments. Like Caroline brought up the women's soccer team and the pay, but even in our county, at least at my school specifically, the volleyball team literally won the regional championship and the football team got absolutely nowhere. I'm so sorry for my school football team, but they got absolutely nowhere. And they got coach buses, they got their games promoted on the announcements and everything like that. And we never even got any acknowledgement until we won the entire thing and we're going on to states. And we still never got a coach bus either, by the way. We got absolutely no credit. And so it's really discouraging for women in those positions to keep doing what they're doing in these male dominated fields and whatnot, because they, even if they do something amazing, they don't get the same amount of credit as men who are just doing what they're doing because it's seen as other people have said more exciting or more intense or something like that. And even when women play male sports like I was bringing up, or male dominated sports, they still are held to a specific scrutiny that men are not.
And you know what's the most, I guess you could say, the most visible thing that comes through everything we've talked about, I feel like, when it comes to terms with women participating in activities that aren't traditionally for women, and I guess activities that aren't traditionally for women or anything that is outside of cooking, cleaning, and the like, is the constant, I would say, mansplaining. And I know that a lot of you on this call, maybe everyone on this call, has experience with that, because I remember I played tennis. I quit tennis actually right before the quarantine happened, but I played tennis for about 3 years. And I remember at every single meet, there would be some guy explain to me how serving works, how singles works and doubles works. And I was like, hey, okay, it's love ball. Let's go. Second serve. Let's go. I know how to play the game. I've been watching the game. I did not come on a bus to play a game I do not know how to play. That's just one example. I can think about basically anything I've ever done. There's probably a mansplaining story right behind it. Walking into a math class, somebody explaining to me how to do the Pythagorean theorem, like I'm not in high school math. Somebody explained to me at my debate tournament the logical fallacies, like I'm not at a debate tournament, things like that. And I know that there's a lot of other shared experiences. So I want to know what any of your experiences are with this type of phenomenon, like mansplaining.
So I have 2 off the top of my hand. My first one is because I'm a big video game player. And my main thing is not the fantasy run around in a princess dress. I like NBA 2K, Rocket League, Call of Duty, those type of games. And like a lot of times if I'm playing with male friends, they're like, okay, so this is how it works. I'm like, I'm at a higher rank than you. Okay, you at rookie 1 and I'm an all-star 3. What are you doing explaining? I should be teaching you how to play the game so you can get to my level. Come back. and then the second one is like almost, so we had this thing called IF at our school before our old vice principal took it away. It's like intervention freedom. So me and a group of my guy friends were sitting in the library watching a football game on like one of his phones. And then for some reason, one of them turns and starts explaining to me the rules. And I'm like, why are you doing this again? Like, come on, man. I know the rule. And he's like, I'm just making sure I'm like, I didn't see you explaining to Timmy or Johnny or Bobby or whatever their names were. I didn't see you explaining to them, but you chose me. And he's like, but I didn't know you knew anything about football. And I start reciting statistics. And then he got quiet. When I know more about football than you, that's when you need to be quiet.
I can recall like, oh my gosh, so many instances of being mansplained too. But one of them I remember, I was in business law last year. This was before everything went virtual. And we were going over like, oh, how like law intersects with like the American like governmental system with like federalism. And it was talking about like, oh, like amendments and stuff and how like, oh, like how like the laws were made and kind of everything. And I was like, okay, cool. And so I had a partner and we were basically like getting a state, we had like Rhode Island or something. And we we're explaining to them like how like some such and such law got like enacted in Rhode Island or like how Rhode Island came a state, but it was like all with like law and stuff. And he was trying to explain to me what an amendment was. Okay, KB, okay. Okay, amend, like it was bad. And I was like, wow, okay. And I was like, I know what an amendment is. He's like, I was just making sure. And I'm like, babes, we got in this class together. You know, I took history for many years and I continue to take it. I love history. I was like, okay. Second one, this was the semester before I went into business law. I had honors business management and we were doing a project on how we were going to make Baltimore safer, which was a lot of people just saying gentrification. But basically he was like, we read the prompt and everything. And we were going outside to go work on the project on the little whiteboard outside. And he proceeds to explain the project to me again. And I'm like, okay, I'm like, you saw, I heard of it. He's like, I was just making sure that you understood all the things that they were saying because, you know, there are like really big words out there. I'm like, okay, I think I understand property. I think I understand statistics, data, you know, really big one, conclusion, really big ones. But he still continued to explain to me. And right now I'm in principles of accounting and finance, but it's virtual. And I know that if I was in class right now, I would have to get like explained the accounting cycle and assets and liabilities and how, you know, revenues minus expenses equal the net income. And I know that I still have a higher grade than all of them combined, but still they explain it to me no matter what.
Yeah, I'm gonna let Megan say something and then I'm gonna say something.
But just like something that happened is I was in 5th grade and we were outside and we were at recess and and a bunch of us were playing wiffle ball and it was like me and one other girl. We both played softball and we were playing wiffle ball with all these other boys. And we split up in teams and everything. And then we're standing in line to bat. And this one boy just tries starting to explain like how to do it. Like, I know how to play. I know how to hit a ball. I know how to throw a ball. I know how to catch a ball. Like it's even if I didn't play softball, like it's not that difficult to figure out. And it's just like I know what I'm doing.
Okay, thank you all for that. I'm sorry, but we're coming to the end of our time. Jana mentioned about people from different states. And so we have an online question that kind of ties into that. And it's about how feminism is viewed in different cultures around the world. And what do you think, what shaped this mindset and how can we actively combat some of these negative beliefs from other cultures?
I'd like to speak to this a little bit. I have very Catholic family members, and I've had like the kind of mindset installed in me that Adam came before Eve. God sent Eve to kind of serve and support Adam, and that therefore women are here to serve and support men. And hearing that mindset, it never sat right with me. And it's kind of what prompted me to want to do research into the topic of feminism and get involved into the area. So if something doesn't sit right with you, you're valid in that. And I would say use it as a means of finding the correct information and finding what does sit right and what does seem correct. So that's what I would have to say with that.
I would say that definitely growing up, not growing up, but being around some people who would be like, oh, you should marry a rich husband and things like that. And I'm like, I'm gonna be the rich wife. Like I'm gonna be the rich person. And it's just like it's like being in the kitchen, like it's like that's microaggression, like little things like learn how to cook and stuff like that. I'm like, I don't like cooking. That's it. I don't like cooking.
Coming from my perspective, I have a Catholic father and then a Hindu mother, so kind of get a little bit of each. And I've seen that in both of these cultures, it's like pretty evident that they want the girls to be shy and timid, and that the men should go out, work, earn for the family. And like, there's like all these little traditions, and you're like, but it's so misogynistic. Why is this still a thing? So it's like up to us, this generation, to like kind of put a stop to those traditions. It doesn't mean to like completely get rid of your culture. It's about transforming it.
All right, thank you all so much. This has been an absolutely amazing panel, but we are coming to the end of our time. So I wanted to end it off with a question that we all felt was a really good question to end with. And we're going to have all the panelists answer this in the same way that we introduced ourselves. So it is, who is your female role model and why? For me to start, I'm going to speak about Amanda Gorman, who was at the Super Bowl yesterday and who obviously gave a really amazing speech for the inauguration. And the reason she's my role model as of right now is because seeing a woman of color, a Black woman specifically, who's come from a difficult background and who is a poet like myself, be on a national stage and be making so many strides at her young age, because like I said, it's the representation of the poet as a young woman, as a Black woman on there, and just making such an impact on our nation and like other ways that she's passionate about and creatively expressing herself is really, really inspiring to me. So the next person we have is Boomy.
Okay, y'all. I don't want to be cheesy, but I am going to be cheesy. Okay, so again, don't cringe. Don't say that is such a cliche answer. But when I think about my female role models, I truly, honestly think of all of you guys, because I know, especially for y'all who are in middle school, when I was in middle school, contrary to popular belief, I could not have imagined doing any of this type of stuff that we're doing right now. I couldn't imagine speaking up, talking candidly in a place where people could be watching, people who are my family. I would never talk like this so openly. And so when I think about the people that I want to know, that I want to continue to strive to be, I think of everyone on this call, because what we're doing right now is a step in the right direction. And it's a step that I hope turns to a stride, that turns into a run, that turns into a marathon, that people that aren't on this call, but that are listening, can continue long after we end tonight.
That was a great thing to say, Boomy, and that's why we're here, to continue to inspire the women of our county, not just the ones who are here who have already done so many amazing things, as we've seen just being here tonight, but in their daily lives at their schools and whatnot. So we really do hope that this continues, not just for the women, but as we've mentioned, for the men as well, because feminism isn't just a woman's thing. So that was a great point to bring up. Next, we have Caroline.
Thanks. Boomy, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I better be voting for you for president in 10 years. I would say that one of my biggest female role models in the feminist movement is Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She was just such a beam of light in the movement when it was so vital. And with her passing this past year, it really just demonstrated what a force of nature she was, what a mark she left on this earth. May her memory be a revolution, and I can just only hope that I'll ever have a fraction of the strength she did.
Yes, even though she wasn't a giant in her size or in her own legacy, she's left so many impact on many other people's lives. That's a great answer. Next, we have Hala.
My female role model is Hazrat Sayyidah Khadija, may Allah be pleased with her, the wife of Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. So Hazrat Khadija was the first person to accept Islam, and she was favored by the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. And despite the patriarchal times, she was actually an esteemed businesswoman. And Hazrat Khadija set the precedent of how a Muslim woman should take after, and inspires me every day to be the best version of myself and the best Muslim women version of myself. And just a quick message to all the other women listening. I just want to say that if you ever feel stuck and if you ever feel like you can't do it directly or indirectly because you are a woman, look below you. Look how much we came. Look at right now, like look at this forum. It is very much the step in a right direction. And look above. Look who already made it to the top. And you can actually take this opportunity of the lack of representation to put yourself out there. Like, I mean, we don't have a first woman president. So definitely take the opportunity. And really, I believe in you and you can do anything you put your mind to.
Yes, that was a great statement, Hala, and I'm glad that you really connected it back to your culture because we talked about representation a lot tonight and how important that was. Next, we have Gabriella.
So my role model is Katherine Johnson, because she was looked down for being a woman in color, even though she was amazing at mathematics and everything that had to do with space. And she worked really hard to be heard. And I really admire that she never stopped. And even though she passed away last year, she still has a legacy. And I will wish to continue to having her mindset in which she will not stop what she was doing and she will work even harder for something that she probably wanted everybody as little kids and us as teenagers to succeed in. So I really admire that, and I really am passionate for how she, as a woman of color, persuaded herself in mathematics.
All right, thank you, Gabriella. That was a great point. Again, touching on that representation and touching on that being an inspiration. And like Bumi said, we are all inspirations here, just like our role models before us, and we're hoping to continue to uplift others and do that with these conversations. Next, we have Jaina.
For my role models, it's a little bit different than a lot of people's role models, but I have to say my Black female elementary school teachers and just administrators, they really truly shaped me into who I am today. They have told me that it's okay to make mistakes and that it's okay to be seen as quote unquote like vulnerable, and it's okay to show emotion. It's okay to be who you are, and you have to be brave and you have to stand up and you have to persevere through all the obstacles that life gives you, whether it's personal, whether it's with race, whether it's with sexism, whether it's with religion, with anything. You persevere, you push through, and you show them that you are worthy of being here. You demand their respect, you demand your validness. So I would like to thank my elementary school teachers of Miss Lewis, Miss Myers, Miss Wheeler, Miss Green, Miss Smith, and Miss Chambers. Thank you for shaping me for who I am today. Thank you so much. I love you guys.
That was a great statement, Jaina, because we talked a lot about how much progress we still have to make in our county, but to recognize, like others have said, how far we've come and how many people in our county have done so much. Like the recent Black Lives Matter protest I went to was organized by a Black woman, Shayla Brown. And so it's really eye-opening how much people in our community, women of color and women in general, have already done for us and how we need to keep continuing their legacy. Next, we have Mega.
So the female role model in my life is U.S. House Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, also known as AOC. Her story of coming from Puerto Rican parents to earning a seat in Congress is like such an inspiration for young girls across the country, including me. She's the youngest woman in Congress, and she shows that her young voice has power. And she comes from a background of color. She has youth. And then she also uses her gender to become one of the strongest voices in our government. And even aside from her political views, she's just an eloquent person and truly a role model for all of us. I mean, I know I get carried away just watching her speeches on YouTube instead of doing all my homework. And like, especially the one that sticks with me was her speech in response to Representative Ted Yoho when he made some very misogynistic remarks about her. And it just comes back to me all the time. And it reminds me that we don't have to accept that ever.
Yes, and again, with that representation about, and bringing it back to a point that someone else made, how you have to keep challenging it, keep making your voice be heard and stuff like that. Great point, Mega. Next, we have Megan.
So I actually have two female role models in my life, and those would be my mom and my nana. They're both very strong and independent women who have taught me the life lesson that girls can do anything that boys can do. And just like in the simple ways of like my mom, like around the house, she just like something needs to be fixed. Typically, you think you call like a handyman and you get it fixed. No, she figures out some way to get it fixed, and taken care of because she knows that she doesn't need a man. And my nana, like no matter what situation you're in, she always has a big smile on her face. She's always happy. She's always smiling, and it's just like they are a huge influence in who I am as a person today.
Yeah, and that really drives it home about, we talk about all these famous people and all these people who are doing amazing things, but there are people who are doing these things every day. Everyone, or pretty much everyone, has a mother, and they've all had some sort of impact on them, and that just shows you the power of women from the beginning. Even before you were born, we talked about carrying you for 9 months and stuff like that. And so that was a really, really great point to bring up, Megan. Next, we have Naya.
So, of course, everyone in here is an inspiration. I love all of you. But especially Amaya and Jaina, they inspired me to start the first equity and equality committee at my middle school after talks with them. And like, I feel really thankful because I never would have felt like I could speak up had they not been there for me. So I know you guys are high schoolers and you probably think this is dorky, but I love you guys. And then my second role model is my aunt, Askari Hudari. She's an author of several books. And since I want to be a writer one day, she's a really big inspiration to me.
Thank you so much for that, Naya, because it means a lot to me. That's why we're here to do this, is to inspire people younger than us, or even people our age, to continue this legacy. And so I really hope you continue to stay involved in all those things. And I read your blog post that you posted, and it is amazing on how informative and inspiring you all are, even at your young age. Like Boomy said, I could never be doing this in middle school. I was nowhere near this informed. I'm a senior now, so yeah, it's been a long time since I'm in middle school, and I could have never been where you are. So keep doing what you're doing. You all are so amazing. Next, we have Princess.
So a role model of mine, so I'm gonna merge them together. So it's my mom, and the next one's Beyonce. I feel like don't laugh. I feel like my mom is really, she's honestly like the greatest. I just love her so much, and she's taught me so much about what it means to be a woman in a non-traditional way. And Beyonce too has had such a big influence in my life. She continues to do. I admire her for how she handles herself, how she views the world, and how she's just so hardworking and how she never lets people get to her. How my mom kind of shared the same spirit, and they just continue to inspire me all throughout. And yeah, I just love them. And you guys too. You guys are amazing. Every single one of you are amazing. I love listening to you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just saying, this panel is so special. And like, again, drawing it back to the home, drawing it back to those mothers. I know they're feeling so appreciated and loved right now, and they really do deserve it for how much that they do for us. So yeah, this is really great. Next, we have Becca.
I think we all have a hive mind here. Naya, Rumi, Princess, and I, because I was going to say all of you guys, so amazing. But I'll say another role model of mine is Malala. Ever since I read her book, I read it like 1 to 2 years ago. That book was so amazing, not only because I got to appreciate some of the rights that we do have here that there are not in other places, but just how passionate she was. And Malala, she's so amazing. Her Nobel Peace Prize speech, everything about her. I read her second book that she just came out with. She's just an amazing role model for all women for advocating.
Yeah, and another really young woman making so many great strides. It's just amazing how much we can do, and I'm glad that we have these areas to speak so we aren't held back by our age, being seen as too immature and whatnot, because we have really made an impact on each other and on other people, I believe, and other young women have as well. And last but not least, again, we have Taylor.
Well, y'all, I think all of you guys are such an inspiration for us to be on this call right now, almost 8 o'clock at night. We on school night and we're talking about this and presenting it. So thank you guys for letting me be a part of this. You guys are truly an inspiration. And also, I know the women in our life, our mothers, our aunts are such inspiration. Shout out to my mom. She's watching this. But I say my inspiration is Maya Angelou, and I love her poetry. I love it so much, and I incorporated it into my speech for FBLA. And we were talking about confidence, and she has a poem called Phenomenal Woman, and she says, "Pretty woman wonder where my secret lies. I'm not cute to build a suit of fashion model size, but when I start to tell them, they think I'm telling lies. I say it's in the reach of my arms, the span of my hips, the stride of my step, and the curl of my lips. I am a woman, phenomenal woman. That's me, and I live by that to the day I die. I love that woman. She's such an inspiration in movies, in writing, in her books. I Know Why the Caged Birds Sing is the absolute, it's amazing. You guys should read it. It's so inspirational. So, yes.
Yeah, and I feel like that was an absolutely perfect note to end this panel on, because we are all women and we are all just that amazing, just that powerful, no matter what our differences are. But that is the end of our panel. We have gone a little bit over time. And for those of you watching, make sure you go on the AACPS Served portal and create an account if you don't have one already, because you can get service hours just for tuning into this. Also, there will be some other things on the screen about how to get involved in Let's Talk Justice. I know some of you were sending questions throughout. You can try to get involved through general meetings. We have a general meeting coming up this Wednesday at 1:15, I believe, on mental health. So if you want to tune into that conversation, be sure to. If you want any other updates or details from Let's Talk Justice, the Google Classroom code is on there. Be sure to get involved, and I hope you all have an amazing night in Arundel County. Passing it over to Boomy for some other final thoughts.
Just to state before we log off for the night that, as we've been saying throughout this entire forum, this conversation does not stop here. This is only the intro to what should be an ongoing conversation about how to ensure women's rights, women's equity around every single institution that we participate in. Even though many women across the United States and in the world have broken so many glass ceilings, just in our community, there's never been a female governor of Maryland, nor has there ever been a female county executive of color in Anne Arundel County. These are just tiny instances of ways in which we still have more to achieve, and we still have a long way to go. But we're not stagnant, we're still moving. And I have to be very honest, I could see a lot of people in this meeting right here, or maybe some people who are watching, who will be breaking those glass ceilings very soon. So I'm just going to leave you with that message. I know it's very difficult right now during a pandemic, but we're going to make it through it, and we're going to continue to progress, because that's all that women have ever done, progress.